I will try to leave the mantra less is more today. One reason for this is that I'm the only one who's separating from the coffee break. And to be honest, I'm dying for coffee. So I will deliver a very short presentation. I will try to be not only punctual in time, but I will try to at least half the time slot I have. And I will speak about a couple of topics that are probably interesting for you. I will briefly mention a bit of a history about us because there are a lot of changes happening with respect to VIP operator, Telekom Austria Group recently, and some of them are known to the public, some of them are not. So I will briefly speak about Telekom Austria Group and our new strategic investor, América Móvil. I will speak afterwards about virtualization. It's a topic, a buzzword that you've heard a couple of times, yesterday and today. And in terms of, with respect to virtualization, I think that we have a lot of credibility to speak because Telekom Austria Group is one of the very first operators in Europe who did some successful trials, and VIP operator in Macedonia is not an exception. Quite contrary, we had a very successful NFV VoLTE trial late last year in Q4. And we would like to share with you our experiences. So the key facts and figures about Telekom Austria: we are a very heterogeneous group of operators. There are greenfields operations within our footprint, Macedonia and Serbia. We have also brownfields like our operations in Bulgaria, in Belarus, in Slovenia. And of course, we are incumbent in our domicile market in Austria. We have around 23 million customers at this very moment, with annual turnover of 4.2 billion euros, earning before interest, tax depreciation and amortization in the vicinity of 1.3 billion euros, and some 16,000 employees. What is interesting for us is what is a kind of a big change for us, a very positive change, a change that is giving us confidence that we are very well positioned in the new environment and for the time to come. Is our partnership with América Móvil. América Móvil started building stake in Telekom Austria Group 2 years ago, and it became especially prominent some mid of last year. At this very moment, América Móvil is currently holding almost 60% of Telekom Austria Group, and the remaining 28.5 percentage points are belonging to the Republic of Austria, and with some free float of 12%. So at this very moment, our results, the results of Telekom Austria Group, the contribution of Telekom Austria Group is consolidated on the results of América Móvil, and together we are a very strong group. We have total revenues of around $66 billion US, with EBITDA of 21 billion. We are operating in 25 countries where we have a controlling stake, and 2 countries where we have only shareholding participation, with 368 million access lines and with a market potential of 911 million inhabitants. In other words, and this is something that I was also not aware, but it's interesting to know and to see, putting aside the Chinese operators, China Mobile and China Unicom, who are big in general due to the specifics on the market and the size of the country. If we put those 2 operators aside, América Móvil is the number 2 in terms of number of access line in the world, next to Vodafone and ahead of Telefonica. Our operation in Macedonia is under 2 brands, VIP and Brizu. We acquired Brizu Macedonia back in July last year. VIP operator is is a greenfield investment. We started back in 2007. We were only mobile, and after the acquisition of Blizu, we started working diligently on having our first quadruple offer on the market, which we successfully did in February. In terms of production capabilities, we have GSM, UMTS, and LTE network. In the fixed net side, it's HFC, DOCSIS, and LAN. We provide full range of wireless and wireline products and services, fixed voice, mobile voice, broadband internet, and TV. From the highlights, I would say that we were very successful as operation. We managed to launch the operation back in 2007 in less than 6 months after we got the license from the Agency of Electronic Communications. We become second largest mobile operator in third quarter of 2011, only 4 years after our start. Our market share at this very moment stands at 28%. We won an LTE license together with other two competitors back in 2013, and we started our commercial operations with LTE in July 2014. Already in few months after the launch of LTE, we managed to surpass in terms of data usage what our customers were consuming on edge. At this very moment, our customers are consuming something like 14 to 15% of the whole data that is consumed on LTE layer, which is great achievement. And last but not least, something that some of you know, some of you not. In October last year, Telekom Austria Group and Telekom Slovenia Group signed a shareholders implementation agreement with intention to merge their operations in Macedonia. We signed the merger agreement in December 2014, and this merger agreement is subject to approval by the Macedonian Competition Authority, which we expect is going to come fairly soon. Now, a few things about what is happening on the customer side. On the customer side, what we see is that that the world is changing. As my dear colleagues also mentioned in their speeches, we do see more and more that the needs are shifting towards broad range of services that were not traditionally covered by telco operators. It's apparent that we're becoming a cornerstone and enablers of what is considered to be our digital life. In the past, we were seen frequently as telecommunication service providers. Nowadays, it's evident that our role is much bigger and broader. We are in the center of the people's social interaction, providing not only classical telco services like voice, like SMS, and so on, but we are also in infrastructure and access to a variety of services that are indispensable how we live, work, play, and interact. According to many forecasters, it is expected that in the next 5 to 6 years we're going to see a tenfold increase in data traffic. To be honest, in Macedonia this is happening even faster. What we are seeing now taking place in Macedonia is already 2.5 times higher data volume than what we had in the same period last year. So you can just project that until year 2019 it's going to be much higher than 10 times. Customers have new demands, definitely. They would like to have these broad range of services on multiple devices. They would like to have this very same content on every screen with unlimited mobility, with high quality, with high capacity, and of course something that they value a lot, and this is security and reliability of communication. We are becoming center of or enabler of their life, but we are becoming also a single point of contact, something that was very nicely said by Nena, that for good and for bad things we are always mentioned independently of the fact whether OTTs are the ones who are basically providing the service. We are seeing in their eyes that we are the ones who are the enablers for the service, and it's making our life even harder, or I wouldn't say miserable, but it's challenging because we are not in a position to control the whole ecosystem. We are participating in the service provisioning, but unfortunately we are not in a position to provide the service end-to-end. The question is now, how is this demand reflected to network domain? And this is the center of this presentation. Or in other words, how we move from silos towards unified IP network infrastructure. So the primary idea is that we have every application that is possible to run on every single device via every access over one IP network. And the only thing that is possible in a way to support this is if we start thinking in the direction of applying network function virtualization more and more. In our network domain, network function virtualization started popping up as a buzzword mostly in the core network area, but now it's moving closer and closer towards the customers. The key transformation pillars in technology are going to be, in the years to come, will be in 3 areas. It's going to be objective to have faster and seamless access. Moving towards network virtualization, as I said, it's started in core network, but it's going to move gradually towards customer premises equipment. And last but not least, a topic that is frequently underestimated by the common public, but it's a big hurdle for operators, and these are the internal system, business support systems, and the need to do a fundamental IT transformation in order to change the way how we operate, in order to support a single-click vision, something that our colleagues from Makedonski Telecom started doing some services already, coming closer to this single-click vision. So briefly about network function virtualization, it's very much associated to a lot of buzzwords, like, it's a kind of paradigm shift, it's software-defined networking or cutting the silo and so on and so forth. Some people even call it networking declaration of independence. There are a lot of hype around this topic, and in few slides I would like to explain what exactly, first of all, network function virtualization means and what is our key learning by doing this trial that we did in the last quarter of 2014. First of all, the idea is basically that what we have as daily functions, what we are frequently using on our iPhones or on our smartphones, like torchlight, like a compass, or wristwatch, or a calculator, or calendar. These daily functions are virtualized by abstraction into software, and then it's run on standard computing platform. Basically, network function virtualization is a kind of a revolution similar to what was the revolution with the introduction of containers. Why? Because the containers did a revolution in the logistics. It allowed economy of scale, made transport more efficient, more flexible, more affordable, and because it has clear interfaces. So with respect to network function virtualization, you have to understand from where we started and how we're coming to it. The history in telco has 3 major paradigm shifts. The first one was when we stopped communicating as humans because it would require to be at close vicinity to each other, and engaging with electromechanical means of communication. The second paradigm shift was moving from electromechanical to digital. And the last one was when we tried, and I have to say we are still in the very infancy of this development, but the first results are very promising. This is when we try to move from the approach where software is controlling the hardware towards virtualization. So what is it about? Network function virtualization potentially can take any network function, normally that is residing on purpose-built hardware, and abstracted it from that hardware towards something which is kind of standard hardware which you can find, on the open market. It's usually Intel-based x86 generation of processors. Once those abstraction is done, and this is done via software abstraction layer that is providing an interface between the software and the network functions and the hardware. Once those network functions, virtualization functions are virtualized, those functions can work as a software modules that can be deployed on a standard computing platform. And can also be moved or replicated to another hardware or a computing platform. It can help us to move away from isolated or multiple isolated networks, which are custom built, towards single hardware-based. Of course, the data center can be distributed, but again, it requires, it enables us definitely to use same hardware, same OS, even different middlewares in order to provide different functions. What is important is, yes, that there is a virtualization demarcation line, which provides an opportunity to put independent software functions on top of this standardized hardware and operating system, and provide opportunity to reduce costs. So network function virtualization is definitely about cutting the silos, because in the past we had different boxes for different kinds of services. We have mobile switching center, which was providing, voice, mobile voice, and SMS. We had SGSN or GGSN nodes, which are part of the packet core. We had HLR, which is the home location register, where we had the profiles of our customers. All these things were different silos built on a specific hardware, built intentionally for this specific purpose. And there was not much of economy of scale. When you want to introduce a different service or different platform, you have to buy the box full-fledged from A to Z, and you cannot economize, you cannot do economy of scale. Moving towards network function virtualization means that we will have a much larger scale of economy due to industries that are supporting also not only telcos, but are supporting airlines, supporting banking, supporting logistics, enterprises, and so on and so forth. It's worth to be mentioned that telecommunications is only 1/10 of the volume that is being sold in the IT domain. So when we manage to become part of a bigger pool of purchase together with airlines, with banking, and so on and so forth, of course, we would have the benefits of economy of scale and eventually reduce the costs. So with respect to this, what has been called networking declaration of independence, the major benefits of network function virtualization are manifold, mostly related to less cache out to cope with the growth of data traffic, higher flexibility and agility in supporting our customers, lower time to market, and less operational expense efforts. And with respect to this, less time to market, I can just share something that crossed my mind while Nenad was discussing, about the complexity from the past, and something crossed my mind that we worked together 10 years ago in the same company. And I do remember the times when we were doing a budget and we were putting, certain amount of lucrative amount of money in the budget for doing a software upgrade with core network back then. The key challenge was that, the vendors was taking a dump from the switch in January, and they were finishing the upgrade in October. So the lead time between, taking the dump and delivering the new software was 10 months. Now, the times have changed. The first implementation of network function virtualization on AMS was done by our colleagues in Serbia in 2.5 months. And when we had to port it out, the application, the same environment to different hardware, because different arrangement with the hardware vendor, they wanted to take back the hardware. The port out of this application with all the features that we had was done in 10 days. And it was simply impossible to be done in the past, in the time when Aurelio, for instance, was selling to me network upgrades as a former Ericsson representative. So it's about time to market, it's about simpler and more automated network, it's about higher quality of delivered services. Of course, it's a lot of challenges there. It's not, when I say high quality, it doesn't come, like this. There are a lot of challenges to be sorted out, but at least it's promising a lot. Finally, what we did, we tried to do virtualized network function virtualization VoLTE trial with a company that probably none of you have heard so far. It's a company called Mavenir. There are a lot of small companies from the Silicon Valley mostly, and partly Israel, who are doing these things for the very first time. They are not known to us, at least for myself. It was my first encounter with them. Companies like Mavenir, Metaswitch, and so on. Companies that probably will have kind of a bright future in this new shift of with this shift of paradigm. But definitely companies that have capabilities to deliver practically everything that we had in the past, but more efficiently, with lower cost, with less time to market, and more flexible. What we tried to build, and we did this in a matter of 2.5 weeks from the moment hardware was in place. We put virtualized VoLTE service up and running, which was not including also only VoLTE service on a smartphone, but we also had WebRTC, a web client on web browser, and we had also opportunity to test Wi-Fi, voice over Wi-Fi, sorry. And all these things work marvelously. We have experienced some difficulties in terms of stability of the service. That's true. We had some hiccups at the beginning, but as I said, it was 2.5 weeks, and I just remind myself from the times when we were doing major software upgrades in the core network. For these 2.5 weeks, you will still process the purchase order internally in the company. So it's something that is easy to cope. So the solution of Mavenir provided, it was built around a virtualized or cloud-based solution. Everything was built in software. It ran on in VIPNet's data center in Croatia. Something that is also interesting to be mentioned is that we are closely cooperating with VIPNet, especially lately. And we are using a lot of experiences and achievements that they already did, having in mind that Croatia is a bit more advanced market than us. At least VIPNet is more advanced company than we compare. Well, our architecture is layered, it's standardized, it's modular, so the services, as I said, could be implemented rapidly. It was 2.5 weeks from the moment we had the hardware available. And we did a lot of tests that we demonstrated to the public in December, the beginning of December, when we presented not only the kind of plain vanilla services, but also we presented also some supplementary services like call forwarding, call waiting, and so on and so forth, which are quite a challenge to be implemented in IMS infrastructure. I promise that I'm going to be short, so I will be short. I will go immediately to the outcomes of this trial. What did go well? First of all, the customer experience was very much improved in terms of call setup time. In the legacy mobile networks, call setup time depends, but it's usually between 4 to 5 seconds, in the vicinity of 4 to 5 seconds. In the new environment, in the new setup, when you have VoLTE, it's a matter of milliseconds. So it's kind of instantaneous. The moment you push the button, you have the ring back on the other side. The voice quality is excellent because it uses much more advanced codecs on both sides. It's very easy to extend all the type of services like we demonstrated. So it was not only based on LTE, it could run also on different access like Wi-Fi. We We had also different terminals. It was not only smartphone, but also web browsers with RTC. However, there were also challenges. The challenges, one of the very prominent challenges, unfortunately at this very moment, is the devices, end-user devices. So we had quite some number of issues with the setup and the configuration of end-user devices, despite of the fact that all of them came to be Baltic-capable, but it's not the case. And with some of these devices, we have definitely a hurdle. Of course, to have plain vanilla services, it's enough to have, IMS, simple IMS infrastructure, OP enabled and so on. But for additional elements, you need to have also virtualized telephony application server. You have to have border gateways and so on. Especially in case you would like to have interworking between the new environment, which is purely IP enabled, with the CS domain from the past, circuit switch domain in the past, like GSM and UMTS. So you have to have a lot of boxes on top or software functions implemented in this common hardware in order to enable, and this is something that we haven't implemented. Simply in 2.5 weeks, it was impossible to implement. And of course, something that remains to be verified is scalability and reliability. We tested a lot, but simply despite the fact that we tested by ourselves, we are not in a position to kind of replicate the load from the production network. So this remains to be seen and to be verified that the loads can be supported. In theory, you can just bring more capacity by introducing more virtual machines, but in reality, it's yet to be seen. And of course, whoever intends to, seriously engage himself in deployment of NFV in production network, scalability and reliability is one of the musts. And the key takeaways is something that I already mentioned. I don't want to repeat myself. So more or less that's it, because I would like to give you opportunity for questions. Thank you.